Let me teach you something no one ever taught you in school. Not how to work harder, not how to be more positive, how to think correctly. Because right now, whether you realize it or not, your thoughts are writing your future in real time. Every sentence in your mind is a brick. And brick by brick, you are building a life, a palace of power or a prison of limitation. If you keep thinking the way you've always thought, you will keep living the way you've always lived. New year, same patterns, different goals, same results. You don't have a motivation problem. You don't have a luck problem. You have a thinking problem. You were never trained how to use the most powerful tool you own, your mind. So it runs on autopilot, absorbing fear, copying other people's doubts, replaying old failures. And then you wonder why your life feels stuck in the same loop. Listen to me. You are not stuck because of who you are. You are stuck because of how you think. And that ends here. In this message, I'm not going to tell you to just believe in yourself and smile. I'm going to show you how to take command of your thoughts, how to stop thinking like a victim and start thinking like a builder, how to reprogram the sentences in your head so your actions have no choice but to change. I will teach you why wrong thinking quietly builds invisible cages around your life, what correct thinking really is, and why it's not the same as positive vibes, how to train your mind like a soldier with zero tolerance for weak thoughts, how to build an inner picture of success so clear that reality eventually has to obey it. You are one mental shift away from an entirely different life. Not 10 years from now. Not one day. The shift begins the moment you decide, I will no longer let my mind work against me. From now on, my thinking will be my greatest weapon. If you are ready for that, if you are tired of drifting, doubting, and self-sabotaging, then stay with me. I will teach you how to think correctly. And once your thinking changes, your world will have no choice but to follow. Look around your life for a moment. Every result you see, your progress, your setbacks, your habits, your confidence, your fears, all of it is the echo of one thing, your thinking, not your circumstances, not your upbringing, not your environment, your thinking. Most people spend their lives trying to fix the wrong thing. They try to fix their job, their relationships, their motivation, their bank account, their schedule, but they never fix the source of it, all the thoughts they allow inside their mind. You don't rise because of conditions. You rise because of cognition. You rise because of the way you interpret reality, not the reality itself. Two people can face the same setback. One breaks, one builds, one collapses, one grows, one gives up, one becomes unstoppable. The difference is never the event. The difference is always the thinking. This is why Napoleon Hill said, "You become what you think about." He didn't say you become what you hope for or what you wish for. He said what you think about, meaning what you habitually allow to dominate your mind, becomes the blueprint for your entire life. And here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't like where you are right now, it's not because life has been unfair. It's because your thinking has been undisciplined. That's not an insult. That's an invitation. Because the moment you understand this, you unlock one of the greatest powers a human being can possess, the ability to change your life by changing your thoughts. Most people never claim that power. They drift mentally from morning until night, letting the world tell them what to feel, what to fear, what to believe. They are mentally reactive, not mentally intentional. And that mental drift becomes a life drift. You've seen it, people repeating the same year over and over, chasing goals with the same mindset that sabotaged them last year, making decisions from fear rather than clarity. They blame circumstances. But the real prison is internal, the voice that says, I can't, the belief that says, I'm too late, the fear that whispers, what if you fail? None of these are facts. They're thoughts, and thoughts can be changed. You do not rise by accident. You rise by conscious mental design. Correct thinking begins with one radical truth. Your mind is the cause. Your life is the effect. If the cause is chaotic, the effect will be chaotic. If the cause is weak, the effect will be weak. If the cause is undisciplined, the effect will be inconsistent. But if the cause becomes powerful, if you learn to think with precision, clarity, and direction, then the effect becomes unstoppable. A strong mind creates a strong life. A trained mind creates a focused life. A disciplined mind creates a successful life. And a correctly trained mind can change everything. Think about the people who rise from nothing immigrants. Underdogs. Workers starting with zero resources. Men and women who come from hardship. How do they climb? Not because they had privilege, luck, or secret connections. They climbed because they changed the way they thought about themselves, about opportunity, about adversity, about what was possible for their life. They didn't wait for conditions to improve. They improved the thinking that created new conditions. That is the shift this chapter demands from you. Stop asking life to change first. Change the thoughts that shape your life, because the truth is simple. You don't have a life problem. You have a thinking problem. And the moment you fix the thinking, the life you want begins to move toward you. This chapter is your wake-up call. Your mind is not a mirror reflecting your life. Your mind is the engine creating it. Change the engine, and the entire direction of your future changes with it. Most people have never been taught how to think. They've been taught what to think, what to believe, what to repeat, what to fear, but not how to direct their own mind with precision and mastery. That is why so many drift through life confused, inconsistent, and overwhelmed. Correct thinking is not common. Correct thinking is not natural. Correct thinking is a skill, and like any skill, it can be trained, sharpened, and mastered. But before you can understand what correct thinking is, you must be absolutely clear about what it is not. Correct thinking is not positive thinking. Positive thinking is surface level. It's cheerleading. It's decorating a weak foundation with hopeful words. It sounds good, but it doesn't change the structure underneath. Correct thinking goes deeper. It is accurate, intentional, and self-directed. It is not about ignoring reality. It is about interpreting reality through strength instead of fear. Correct thinking is not unrealistic optimism. It does not say everything will magically work out. It says, I will make it work because my mind is aligned with the result. Correct thinking is not emotional thinking. It does not react to feelings. It does not collapse when fear rises. It does not get hijacked by impulse, doubt, or chaos. Correct thinking is mental leadership. It is the ability to command your thoughts the same way a general commands an army with clarity, purpose, and authority. Correct thinking means you choose your thoughts deliberately, not emotionally, strategically, not automatically. It means you decide what thoughts stay and what thoughts are eliminated, because every thought in your mind is either A, builder adding strength, clarity, and momentum, a breaker weakening your resolve, scattering your focus, and shrinking your future. There is no neutral thought. Every thought moves you in one direction or the other. And this is where correct thinking becomes a superpower. It forces you to become aware of the silent mental habits that have been running your life without your permission, the quiet doubts you repeat, the invisible fears you carry, the negative assumptions you haven't questioned, the beliefs you inherited but never tested. These are the enemies of correct thinking. Correct thinking is the discipline of refusing entry to any thought that does not serve your highest purpose. It is the ruthless filtering of your inner world. Napoleon Hill called it controlled attention. The ability to hold one thought, one aim, one purpose, and reject everything that contradicts it. Correct thinking means you know where your mind is going before the world tries to pull it somewhere else. It means you mentally rehearse success until your nervous system treats it as familiar. It means you build beliefs intentionally instead of absorbing them by accident. It means you create your inner environment the way an architect designs a structure with precision, clarity, and a future in mind. Correct thinking is cause. Everything else is effect. It is the seed from which all results grow. It is the blueprint from which all outcomes are built. It is the internal order that creates external success. People think success requires more effort, but effort without correct thinking becomes wasted energy. People think success requires more motivation, but motivation without correct thinking turns into emotional roller coasters. People think success requires more luck, but luck without correct thinking goes unused. Correct thinking is the foundation that makes everything else work. Without it, your actions will be unfocused, your discipline inconsistent, your goals unstable with it. Your actions become precise, your discipline steady, your direction unshakable. And here is the truth you must accept: you will never outperform the quality of your thinking. Never. If your thinking is scattered, your life will be scattered. If your thinking is reactive, your results will be inconsistent. If your thinking is weak, your outcomes will be weak. But if your thinking becomes correct, structured, disciplined, intentional, then you become unstoppable. Correct thinking is not motivation. It is mental architecture. It is the blueprint for everything you are about to build. And once you master it, you will never go back to the old way of thinking again. If you want to understand your life, you must first understand how your thinking actually works, because nothing in your life happens randomly. Every habit, every emotion, every result, all of it begins with the thoughts you repeatedly allow to take root inside your mind. Most people never see this connection. They think results just happen. They think habits are automatic. They think success belongs to the lucky. But the truth is simpler and far more powerful. Your thoughts are the first cause of everything that shows up in your life. There is a progression, a chain reaction that shapes your reality. And whether you are aware of it or not, this chain is running every single day. It works like this. First, you think something, then that repeated thought becomes a belief. That belief shapes your identity. Your identity generates your emotional state. Your emotional state drives your habits. Your habits create your actions, and your actions produce your results. Let's break it down clearly so you can see the mechanism controlling your life. Thought becomes belief. A thought repeated often enough becomes a belief. You do not believe things because they are true. You believe them because they are familiar. Your mind accepts repetition as reality. If you think, "I'm not good enough," or "success is for other people," or "I always fail," your mind eventually stamps those thoughts as truth even when they are lies. Your thinking becomes the internal script your life starts following. Belief becomes identity. Once a belief settles, it reshapes who you think you are. If you believe you're not capable, you behave like someone who is not capable. If you believe you're unlucky, you stop searching for opportunities. If you believe you're unworthy, you tolerate things that destroy your potential. Identity is the most powerful force in human behavior. People do not act according to their dreams. They act according to who they believe themselves to be. Identity creates emotion. Your emotional life is not random. It flows directly from your identity. If your identity is weak, you feel fear, uncertainty, hesitation. If your identity is strong, you feel clarity, confidence, energy. People think they have emotional problems. What they really have are identity problems created by years of wrong thinking. When you change your thinking, you change your identity. When you change your identity, your emotional state rises automatically. Emotion creates habit. Your habits are driven by your emotional state. Fear produces avoidance. Confidence produces action. Confusion produces procrastination. Clarity produces momentum. This is why you cannot build strong habits with weak thinking. Your mind must generate the emotions that fuel the habits you need. Habit creates action. Everything you repeatedly do becomes your behavior. This is where most people try to change their lives. They try to fix their actions without fixing the thinking behind them, and that's why they fail again and again. Action is the echo of thought. It is the final expression of every belief running in the background. A person filled with doubt can never take consistent action because doubt is writing their instructions. Action creates result. Your results reveal your thinking. Your life is a mirror. It reflects the dominant thoughts you have accepted. If you keep getting the same outcomes, it's because your thinking hasn't changed. If your progress rises and falls, it's because your thinking rises and falls. Your results never betray your thoughts. They expose them. This is why correct thinking is not optional. It is foundational. It doesn't just change what you feel. It changes who you believe you are. It changes what you chase, what you tolerate, what you commit to, and what you build. When your thinking becomes precise, your identity becomes powerful. When your identity becomes powerful, your habits become disciplined. When your habits become disciplined, your results multiply. This is the hidden machinery behind every transformation. This is the engine behind every success story. This is the law that will reshape your future. You don't need a new life. You need a new way of thinking, because once your thinking changes, everything else must follow. If you want to rise in life, if you want to break old patterns and rewrite your future, you must master one skill above all others, the ability to control your thoughts, not occasionally, not when it's convenient, every day, every hour, every moment, because if you do not control your thinking, something else will. Fear will control it. Doubt will control it. The past will control it. Your environment will control it. The opinions of others will control it. And life lived under the control of external forces is not life. It is survival. You were not born to survive. You were born to direct, to create, to shape, to command. And it begins with the mastery of thought. But most people have never been taught how to think. They only know how to react. Their minds drift from one feeling to another, one fear to another, one distraction to another, and they wonder why their life feels chaotic. Correct thinking is not reactive. Correct thinking is intentional. It is engineered. It is disciplined. It is self-directed by a mind that knows exactly where it wants to go. Let's break down the process of mastering your thoughts so clearly that it becomes impossible not to apply it. Awareness. You must see the thought before it controls you. The first step toward mental mastery is awareness. You cannot change a thought you do not notice. You cannot reject a belief you do not recognize. Most thoughts slip into the mind silently. They arrive disguised as common sense. They speak in the voice of your past. They appear as harmless opinions or quiet doubts. But every thought has power. Every thought has consequences. Awareness is the moment you shine a light on your inner dialogue. It is the moment you say, this thought, does it strengthen me or weaken me? That single question can change your entire destiny. Interruption. You must stop the thought before it spreads. Once you notice a weak thought, you interrupt it, not politely, not softly, with force. You stop it like you would stop a fire in your home. You refuse to let it spread. You refuse to let it become belief, because every weak thought carries seeds that want to grow into fear, doubt, hesitation, and limitation. You interrupt it immediately with a stronger command. I reject this. This is not my thought. This is not my identity. And the moment you interrupt it, its power begins to die. Replacement. You must install the thought that aligns with your purpose. Nature hates a vacuum. You cannot simply remove a thought, you must replace it. This is where your power returns. When a thought of fear appears, replace it with a thought of capability. When a thought of doubt whispers, replace it with a thought of strength. When a thought of limitation rises, replace it with a thought of dominance. You fire the old thought, and you hire the new one. This is not delusion. This is mental construction. This is identity engineering. This is choosing the thought that will shape your future instead of letting the past choose it for you. Repetition. You must reinforce the thought until it becomes automatic. A single powerful thought can spark change, but repeated powerful thoughts create transformation. Repetition is the mechanism that turns chosen thoughts into identity. Say it once and your mind hears it. Say it daily and your mind accepts it. Say it until it becomes instinct and your mind lives it. This is how confidence is built. This is how belief is forged. This is how a new identity is created, not through momentary motivation, but through mental repetition strong enough to rewrite the subconscious. You become what you repeat. Protection. You must guard your mind like your destiny depends on it, because it does. Your mind is sacred territory. You cannot allow every voice, every comment, every opinion, every fear-filled idea to enter it. You must build mental walls. You must create standards. You must decide what has permission to stay in your mind and what must be rejected instantly. Correct thinking is not soft. It is strict. It is uncompromising. It has zero tolerance for thoughts that weaken your mission, because you are not thinking for entertainment. You are thinking for destiny. This is the master skill, the ability to command your thoughts with precision. When you master this, life becomes easier not because the world changes, but because you change. You become unshakable. You become decisive. You become disciplined in a way most people will never understand. Correct thinking gives you the sharpness to see opportunity, the clarity to move with purpose, the strength to push through challenges, and the fire to keep going long after the old version of you would have quit. This is not motivation. This is mental power. This is you stepping into the role of commander instead of passenger. And once you control your mind, nothing in this world can control you. Before you rise, before you succeed, before you unlock the future meant for you, You must confront the one enemy that has stolen more dreams than failure, poverty, or circumstance ever could: weak thinking. Weak thinking does not show up loudly. It does not announce itself. It does not warn you before it takes root. Weak thinking is subtle, quiet, comfortable, and that is what makes it deadly. It hides in familiar phrases like "I can't," "I'm not ready." What if it doesn't work? What will people think? Maybe one day, just not today. These thoughts feel harmless. They feel reasonable. They feel safe, but they are the termites of the mind, silent, invisible, and destructive. While you're living your life, chasing small goals, doubting your potential, weak thinking is eating away at your confidence, your focus, your ambition, your vision, until there is nothing left but the shell of the person you were meant to become, and most people never notice it happening. Weak thinking masquerades as logic. Weak thoughts rarely come dressed as fear. They disguise themselves as being realistic, being cautious, or waiting for the right moment. But look deeper. Almost every logical excuse that holds you back is nothing more than fear pretending to be wisdom. Weak thinking convinces you that small dreams are practical. Weak thinking convinces you that delay is maturity. Weak thinking convinces you that quitting is self-care. But the truth is simple. If a thought shrinks your potential, it is not logic. It is weakness. Weak thinking builds invisible prison walls. Your life is not limited by your circumstances. Your life is limited by the thoughts you repeatedly believe. Most people live inside an invisible mental prison, not because they lack ability, but because they have allowed weak thinking to decide their boundaries. They stay where it feels familiar. They avoid where it feels uncomfortable. They settle for what feels safe. And the saddest part, they don't realize the prison door has been open the entire time. Weak thinking convinces you to stay inside. Correct thinking forces you to walk out. Weak thinking protects your comfort, not your future. Weak thoughts are designed to keep you comfortable. They are not designed to keep you powerful. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Comfort is the enemy of clarity. Comfort is the enemy of progress. Weak thinking will always choose comfort over destiny. Correct thinking chooses destiny over comfort every single time. Weak thinking grows when you don't confront it. A weak thought that goes unchallenged becomes a belief that goes unreplaced becomes identity, and identity eventually becomes destiny. This is why you cannot afford to let weak thoughts linger. You must stop them immediately. You must expose them. You must replace them with thoughts that strengthen your focus, sharpen your ambition, and protect your purpose. Weak thinking dies the moment you confront it. Weak thinking grows the moment you ignore it. Weak thinking is not who you are, it's what you've repeated. Weak thoughts are habits, not identity, and habits can be changed. You were not born with doubt. You learned it. You were not born with fear. You absorbed it. You were not born with hesitation. You practiced it, which means you can unlearn it. You can override it. You can replace it with the thoughts of strength, clarity, precision, and certainty. Because the truth is, your destiny is not destroyed by what you are. It is destroyed by what you tolerate in your mind. Weak thinking is the enemy that has been holding you back in silence. Correct thinking is the weapon that will set you free. The moment you identify a weak thought and refuse to let it stay, your entire life begins to shift because you are finally choosing strength over fear, clarity over confusion, and purpose over comfort. And that choice, repeated daily, will transform you into someone unstoppable, Once you recognize the patterns of weak thinking living inside your mind, the next step is not to fight them endlessly. It is to replace them. You cannot win by wrestling your old thoughts. You win by starving them and feeding the thoughts that align with the life you want. The human mind does not stay empty. Every thought you remove must be replaced with a stronger one, or the old thinking will sneak back in and take control again. That is why transformation begins not with force, but with substitution. Correct thinking does not mean trying to stop negative thoughts by willpower alone. If you simply try to not think negatively, you create a war inside your head that you can never win. The mind does not respond to rejection. It responds to direction. It must be told what to think, not just what to avoid. You must give it a new script, a new language, a new way of seeing the world, and you must repeat that script until it becomes the only mental pattern your mind knows. This is how identity begins to shift. When the old thoughts lose nourishment and the new thoughts gain dominance, your internal world rearranges itself. You begin to feel different. You begin to behave different. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, decide differently. Because once the internal script changes, the external story must change too. Replacing the old script starts with awareness. Every time an old thought rises, the doubt, the fear, the hesitation, you stop it without judgment. You recognize it as the old program, the outdated code that no longer serves you. You don't argue with it. You don't negotiate with it. You simply choose a higher thought, a thought that builds instead of breaks, a thought that strengthens instead of weakens, a thought that aligns with your vision, not your past. At first, this feels unnatural. Your mind will try to pull you back to the familiar. It will whisper the same old stories that have kept you small for years. But this resistance is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that the old script is losing control. Every time you choose the new thought, even if you don't fully believe it, yet you weaken the old pattern. You create cracks in the walls of your mental prison. And with enough repetition, those walls collapse. The real power in replacing your thinking lies in emotional repetition. A thought becomes belief not by logic, but by frequency and feeling. When you repeat a thought with intensity, with emotional energy, with focus, you impress it deeper into your subconscious. You teach your mind that this is the new standard. This is the new identity. This is the only direction you will allow. Slowly, the new script becomes automatic. You wake up thinking differently. You respond to challenges differently. You carry yourself with a confidence that feels natural because it is no longer something you are trying to force. It has become your internal truth. This is how correct thinking takes root, not through pressure, but through persistent replacement, not through force, but through clarity, not through resistance, but through alignment. The old script loses power not because you defeated it, but because you stopped feeding it and started feeding the future version of you. And one day, often quietly, without warning, you realize the old thoughts no longer have a home inside you. They knock, but nothing opens. They whisper, but nothing responds. Your mind, once full of conflict, becomes a fortress of clarity and direction. That is the moment your life begins to obey you, because the mind that has been rewired with purpose will never again accept a life beneath its potential. There comes a point in every transformation where awareness is no longer enough. You can understand your patterns. You can recognize your weak thoughts. You can even start replacing them. But if you want to rise above the average mind, if you want to break generational cycles and step into the highest version of yourself, You must do more than simply think better. You must train your mind with the same discipline, intensity, and focus that a soldier uses to prepare for battle. Because life will test you. Fear will return. Distractions will come. Pressure will rise. And in those moments, your mind must already be trained, not fragile, not reactive, not uncertain. It must be conditioned to stay sharp when everything around you is trying to make you collapse. A warrior does not wait for the battlefield to begin training. He prepares long before he steps into the fight. He sharpens his skills before the enemy appears. He builds strength before the pressure arrives. And that is exactly how you must train your mind. Most people think their thoughts are something passive, something that just happens. But the people who rise, the people who break through, the people who dominate their field are not thinking casually. They are thinking strategically. Their mind is not wandering. It is weaponized. It is trained. This kind of thinking doesn't flinch when doubt appears. It doesn't freeze when uncertainty shows up. It doesn't crumble when things get difficult. It steps forward. It moves. It decides. It executes. Because a trained mind does not wait for motivation, it acts on command. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, you strengthen the warrior inside your mind. Every time you move forward while fear screams at you to stop, you harden your resolve. Every time you refuse to let a weak thought take root, you sharpen your mental blade. But the true shift happens when this training becomes your default, when you no longer fight yourself to think correctly, when the old patterns return and your mind rejects them instantly, almost automatically, when your inner voice no longer whispers doubts, it issues commands. A warrior mindset is built through repetition, resilience, and refusal. Repetition of powerful thoughts, resilience in the face of pressure, refusal to let weakness live in your mind for even a moment. This mental training creates a version of you that is calm under chaos, focused under stress, and unshakable when everything around you is unstable. You begin to operate with a clarity most people never experience. You make decisions faster. You recover from setbacks quicker. You adapt without losing your direction. You push when others fold. And slowly, something extraordinary happens. You stop seeing challenges as threats. You see them as opportunities to test your training. You stop fearing difficulty. You welcome it because you know it's forging you into something stronger. You stop doubting your ability. You trust your mind because you have conditioned it to withstand the fire. This is the point where your life shifts from reactive to intentional, from chaotic to controlled, from uncertain to unstoppable. A mind trained like a warrior does not negotiate with excuses. It does not tolerate weakness. It does not surrender to circumstance. It leads. It focuses. It commands. And once you train your mind to operate at this level, no challenge, no setback, no obstacle can break you because your thoughts are no longer fragile. They are fortified. They are disciplined. They are aligned with your mission. This is how great leaders rise. This is how average people transform. This is how you break the limits that once held you down. Master your mind like a warrior, and you will master your world. Every major breakthrough in your life begins with a single moment of alignment, the moment when your mind, your intention, your belief, and your vision finally point in the same direction. Most people fail not because they lack talent, opportunity, or resources, but because their thinking is divided. They say they want success, but they think in ways that contradict it. They dream of a greater life, but they carry thoughts that reflect fear, doubt, hesitation, and past wounds. Their mind sends mixed signals, and mixed signals create mixed results. Mental alignment is the opposite of mental conflict. It is the state where your thoughts no longer pull you backward while your actions try to move you forward. It is the moment when your inner world stops arguing with your goals, when your desires and your beliefs stop fighting each other, when you no longer carry the burden of two minds, one that wants to rise and another that tries to protect your old life. When your mind becomes aligned, something extraordinary happens. You begin to feel a sense of clarity that cuts through confusion like a blade. You know exactly what needs to be done and exactly who you must become. Your energy shifts, your focus sharpens, your decisions become effortless. It feels as if the path that once looked impossible suddenly opens right in front of you. This is not magic. It is the natural consequence of removing mental contradictions. When your mind stops resisting your progress, your action becomes smooth. Your confidence becomes natural. Your habits become automatic. You stop waking up with hesitation. You stop questioning every step. You stop analyzing every possibility. You begin to trust your internal compass, the same compass that has been waiting to guide you once the noise disappeared. Mental alignment is not created through pressure. It is created through precision. You must be brutally honest about the thoughts you have been entertaining. You must ask yourself whether your thinking matches your vision or undermines it. Do you think like the person you want to become? Or do you think like the person you've been trying to escape? Do your thoughts serve your goals? Or do they quietly sabotage them? The answers to these questions will determine everything, because when your thinking does not match the life you desire, you create an internal tug of war, and in that war, you lose energy, momentum, and time. You may be working hard, but you feel stuck. You may be moving, but you don't feel progress. You may be taking action, but nothing seems to scale. It is not because your path is wrong, it is because your mind is misaligned. But when alignment happens, the friction disappears. The weight drops off your chest. You begin to move with a rhythm that feels completely natural. Your results accelerate because your thinking and your actions are finally rowing in the same direction. Correct thinking becomes the engine. Aligned belief becomes the fuel, and purpose becomes the steering wheel. This is why the greatest champions, creators, and leaders all share one thing: absolute clarity. They do not entertain contradictory thoughts. They do not allow internal conflict to drain their strength. They align their mind with their vision until the vision becomes the only reality their thoughts will accept. And once that alignment locks in, their life begins to reorganize itself around that new mental standard. That is the power available to you now. The power to create harmony inside your mind so strong that your external world has no choice but to match it. When you think with alignment, the world stops feeling like resistance and starts feeling like response. You no longer chase results, you draw them in. You no longer force progress, you create the conditions that make progress inevitable. You were never stuck. You were never broken. You were never missing anything. Your mind was simply misaligned. Fix the alignment, and your life will begin to follow your command. The clarity you have been searching for is not outside you, it is inside you, waiting for the moment when your thoughts finally agree on who you are and where you are going. Every true transformation comes down to one decisive moment, the moment you stop trying to upgrade your life and begin upgrading yourself, because the results you want cannot exist without the identity required to sustain them. You cannot hold a powerful future with a powerless mindset. You cannot build a greater life while clinging to the beliefs of a smaller version of you. Every breakthrough demands that you become someone new on the inside long before anything changes on the outside. Most people fail not because their goals are too big, but because their identity is too small. They try to force new habits while holding on to old beliefs. They try to take bold actions while secretly seeing themselves as unprepared, unworthy, or incapable. They chase success with the same mind that once accepted failure. And eventually, they collapse back into the pattern they were trying to escape, confused why change never lasts. This is why the identity shift is the turning point. An identity shift begins the moment you stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "Who must I become to live the life I want?" That question pierces deeper than motivation, deeper than discipline, deeper than routine. It forces you to confront the truth that your life will always rise or fall to the level of your self-image. If you see yourself as capable, your actions reflect it. If you see yourself as limited, your behavior shrinks to match. Identity is not a detail. It is the blueprint of your entire destiny. The process of shifting identity is uncomfortable because it requires you to detach from the version of yourself that has felt familiar, even if that version has kept you small. You must release the beliefs you inherited from fear, failure, or past experiences. You must stop responding to life from your history and begin responding from your vision. And you must commit to becoming the person your future demands, even before you feel ready. Identity shifts happen in silence, in the private decision that the old story ends today. You wake up and choose thoughts, actions, and standards that align with the higher version of you. Even when your current reality hasn't caught up yet, you speak differently. You move differently. You treat yourself differently. And slowly, your mind begins to accept this upgraded identity as your new truth. This is where momentum begins. As the new identity strengthens, your habits change naturally. Your decisions become bolder. Your confidence rises because it's no longer forced. It's aligned with who you believe yourself to be. Opportunities that once felt impossible start appearing, not because your life suddenly became easier, but because your identity finally stopped rejecting the future you were meant to step into. The identity shift is not magic. It's alignment. It's the moment your inner world stops contradicting your ambitions. And once your identity rises, everything in your life is forced to rise with it. You do not become successful by accident. You become successful by becoming the person who expects and embodies the success you seek. Everything in your life will rise or fall to the level of your mental discipline, not your talent, not your motivation, not your circumstances, your discipline of mind. This is the final mastery, the point where correct thinking becomes so ingrained, so automatic, so consistent that success stops being a possibility and becomes a requirement. Most people never reach this stage. They train their body, but not their mind. They chase goals, but never correct the thinking that keeps sabotaging them. They pray for breakthroughs, but keep feeding thoughts that break them down. They want a new life, but they keep recycling old beliefs. And because their mind remains untrained, they repeat the same year again and again. But you are choosing a different path. You are choosing mastery. Mental mastery begins with one decision. You will no longer allow your mind to drift wherever it wants. You lead. It follows. Once that decision is made, everything changes. A trained mind doesn't wait for motivation, it creates momentum. A trained mind doesn't fear difficulty, it calculates, adapts, and advances. A trained mind doesn't collapse under pressure, it sharpens under pressure. Pressure is not an enemy to the trained mind. It is the environment where strength is forged. This is why you must treat your mind as a soldier treats his weapon, with respect, with precision, and with constant sharpening. You do not let negative thoughts roam freely. You do not let doubt build a home. You do not let fear grow roots. Every weak thought is identified, confronted, and eliminated instantly. You replace "what if I fail" with "what if I win." You replace "I don't know how" with "I will learn." You replace "I'm not ready" with "I am preparing every day." You replace hesitation with execution, confusion with clarity, emotion with intention. Correct thinking is not merely a mindset. It is a strategy. It is a form of internal leadership that commands your body, your choices, and your outcomes. When the mind is trained, everything becomes clearer. You stop wasting energy on meaningless battles. You stop fighting yourself. You stop negotiating with excuses. You stop allowing temporary feelings to dictate permanent decisions. A trained mind keeps its eyes on the target even when the path is foggy. It acts with conviction even when results are not visible yet. It stays consistent even when emotions fluctuate. This is the mental advantage that separates those who wish from those who win. And here is the ultimate truth. Once your thinking becomes disciplined, your success becomes predictable. Not overnight, not magically, but inevitably, you will outlast, outfocus, and outgrow every version of yourself that once held you back. This is the final mastery: not to think positively, but to think powerfully, not to silence fear temporarily, but to train your mind until fear has no authority, not to chase results anxiously, but to think with such clarity and purpose that results must obey. When you master your mind, you master your future. And once you master your future, nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop you. Listen carefully, because everything you've heard up to this point leads to this moment. Your mind is not a passenger. It is the engine. Your thoughts are not whispers. They are commands. Your future is not random. It is built by the thinking you choose to repeat. And today, right here, right now, you choose mastery. You choose to stop drifting. You choose to stop shrinking. You choose to stop letting fear, doubt, and weakness write your story. From this moment forward, you think like the person you are becoming, not the person you used to be. From this moment forward, you treat your mind like a fortress guarded, sharpened, disciplined. From this moment forward, your thoughts rise to the level of your destiny. Because here's the truth the world never taught you: the one who controls their mind controls their life. The one who strengthens their mind shapes their reality. The one who trains their mind becomes unstoppable. Your past does not decide your future, your thinking does. Your circumstances do not decide your rise, your thinking does. Your emotions do not decide your destiny, your thinking does. And you are done thinking small. So stand tall, breathe deep, and remember this: you are one decision away, one shift in thought, one act of mental discipline from becoming the version of yourself you were always meant to be. Your rise begins now. If this message awakens something inside you, if you're ready to train your mind, elevate your thinking, and rewrite your entire future, subscribe to Hill Mindset Legacy and step into the community of people who are done living on autopilot. Like this video to push this message into the world where it's needed most. Comment one thing you are choosing to think differently starting today. Claim it, declare it, own it. And if you want more life-changing lessons inspired by Napoleon Hill, Andrew Carnegie, Jim Rohn and the builders of true success, turn on notifications. Your transformation is just getting started. This is Hill Mindset Legacy, and this is where you rise. Not someday, not later, now.